There is a quiet pattern in history that ends powerful systems without a single invasion, without a single dramatic moment. It's a slow, almost invisible erosion, happening not on a battlefield, but in boardrooms, in government offices, and on spreadsheets. It's a story of complexity and consequence, where the seeds of decline are sown long before anyone notices the harvest. It doesn't begin with chaos. It begins with calm, with the hum of a functioning economy, the rhythm of daily life, and the reassuring belief that the foundations are solid. It begins with numbers, incentives, and decisions that feel reasonable at the time. This is the engine of the quiet pattern, a growing misalignment between what is rewarded and what is needed for long-term health. We see this in what economists call the principal-agent problem, where the people making decisions, the agents, have different goals than the people they are supposed to serve, the principals. A manager might cut maintenance to hit a quarterly bonus, even if it cripples the factory in 5 years. The incentive is immediate, while the consequence is distant. Over time, this logic compounds. Systems become bloated with administrative layers that add cost but not value. Promises are made for pensions, for services, for infrastructure projects that rely on future growth that may never materialize. We take on more and more debt, but each new dollar borrowed produces less and less real-world growth. This is the declining marginal productivity of debt. We're running faster just to stay in the same place, deferring today's costs onto an increasingly uncertain tomorrow. And the most dangerous part is this: while the pattern is unfolding, life still looks normal. The shelves are stocked, salaries are paid, and the system appears stable. But underneath, the pressure is building, visible only if you know where to look. There are modern indicators of this strain. We see it in the rising share of income that households and governments must spend just to service their debts, leaving less for investment and consumption. We see it when corporations consistently choose to spend profits on stock buybacks, which boost share prices now, instead of on capital expenditures that would build productive capacity for the future. We see it in the fragility of hyper-concentrated supply chains, where a single point of failure can cause global disruption. And we see it in our energy systems, where the energy returned on energy invested is declining for key resources, meaning it takes more work to get the same power. Perhaps the most critical indicator is the erosion of public trust. When people feel the gap between the system's promises and its reality, faith in institutions wanes. This isn't a moral failing. It's a rational response to a system that seems to be serving itself, not its people. In this video, you're going to see the quiet pattern behind money, power, and collapse, how great powers weaken from the inside, why systems keep rewarding the very decisions that accelerate decline. But this is not a story of inevitable doom. Understanding the pattern is the first step toward breaking it. We can choose to steer back toward resilience by realigning incentives to reward long-term productivity, not just short-term gains. We can invest in maintenance, skills, and robust infrastructure. We can simplify overwrought rules and diversify our critical supply chains. Recognizing the pattern isn't about predicting the future. It's about earning a better one. And it's about understanding why every generation believes the same sentence. This time is different. History offers a stark pattern. Consider Spain in the 16th and 17th centuries. It controlled the vast silver mines of the Americas, flooding the world with wealth. But this windfall became a curse. Instead of investing in domestic production, the empire relied on imports and financed endless wars. When the silver flow slowed, the economy, hollowed out and addicted to foreign credit, simply collapsed under the weight of its own debt. Or look at the British Empire. At its zenith, it ruled over a quarter of the world's population. Yet after 2 world wars, it found itself financially exhausted. The cost of maintaining a global military presence and administering vast territories became unsustainable. Britain couldn't afford to keep its empire, which was dismantled not by conquest, but by economic necessity. The Soviet Union presented a different model, a command economy designed to rival a superpower. For decades, it succeeded, matching the West in military and industrial might. But its rigid central planning led to massive inefficiencies and an inability to innovate. It disappeared not in a blaze of war, but with a quiet implosion. Its foundations eroded from within. Different cultures, different ideologies, yet they all succumbed to the same underlying system failure. Collapse doesn't usually arrive with explosions. It arrives quietly, through debt, inefficiency, rising complexity, and shrinking opportunity. This is the quiet pathology of decline. It begins when the promises a system makes no longer match the reality it can deliver. Incentives become misaligned. Administrative bloat slows decision-making to a crawl. We see it in infrastructure projects that are decades late and billions over budget, or in the quiet deferral of essential maintenance on bridges, grids, and waterways. The system feels stable, even as it weakens. But the pressure indicators are there, if you know where to look. Watch the divergence between corporate stock buybacks and capital investment, a sign that companies prefer financial engineering over building future capacity. Track public trust in key institutions. When it falls consistently, the social contract is fraying. Notice the growing concentration in critical supply chains, creating single points of failure for the entire global economy. Each is a quiet signal that the system is consuming its own seed corn. But recognizing the pattern is not a prophecy of doom. It is a call for resilience. The path back is not glamorous. It involves simplifying needlessly complex rules to unlock productivity. It means rewarding long-term investment over short-term speculation. Crucially, it requires a renewed focus on the unsexy work of maintenance and a deep investment in skilled labor. By stress testing our institutions and diversifying our critical dependencies, we can steer away from fragility and back toward a durable, adaptive future. The choice is not to predict the future, but to build a better one. The system still functions, but it no longer works the way people believe it does. Across history, the same quiet stages appear again and again, not as a prediction, but as a pattern. Once you see them, you start noticing them everywhere. Stage 1 begins when power expands faster than productivity. More commitments, more influence, more guarantees. But the real engine, production, efficiency, innovation, can't keep pace. At first, this looks like strength, but underneath, the system starts running on borrowed time. Stage 2 begins when money becomes easier than building. Instead of producing more, the system creates more claims on value. Credit expands. Financial tools multiply. It feels efficient. It feels modern. But wealth slowly disconnects from real production. Stage 3 is when asset bubbles replace real growth. Rising prices feel like prosperity, but higher prices don't build skills, factories, or resilience. They depend on confidence, and confidence disappears faster than it forms. This is where systems often look strongest right before they weaken. Stage 4 is the incentive trap. Here the system starts rewarding short-term stability over long-term health. The incentives that once drove growth now perversely encourage stagnation. This is the quiet collapse, happening not with a bang, but under the weight of its own misaligned rewards. This misalignment manifests in several ways. We see the principal-agent problem, where managers prioritize their own bonuses over the company's future. Administrative bloat adds layers of bureaucracy that slow decisions and consume resources. The marginal productivity of new debt declines, meaning we borrow more and more just to stand still. Promises of progress, like new infrastructure projects, face endless delays, while essential maintenance is deferred to make quarterly numbers look good. So-called zombie firms, kept alive only by cheap credit, litter the economic landscape, preventing capital from flowing to healthier, more innovative ventures. In this environment, leaders are praised for keeping things calm, not for fixing what's broken. They become managers of decline, celebrated for avoiding immediate disruption, even as the foundations crumble beneath them. The system feels stable, but pressure indicators are flashing red for those willing to look. We see a growing divergence between stock buybacks and capital investment. Profits are used to boost share prices, not to build future capacity. Supply chains become dangerously concentrated, creating fragility that one disruption can shatter. Public trust in key institutions erodes, a leading indicator of social fragility. And anyone who points this out, anyone who slows the machine to try and fix it, pays a price. At this stage, collapse isn't caused by ignorance. It's caused by incentives that punish honesty and reward complicity. But this pattern is not destiny. Steering back to resilience requires a conscious shift. We must realign incentives to reward long-term productivity, not short-term gains. This means simplifying rules to empower builders, investing heavily in maintenance and skills, and diversifying our critical supply chains and energy sources. By recognizing the patterns of the incentive trap, we can choose to build a more durable and prosperous future, turning away from the path of quiet collapse and toward one of renewal. Stage 5 is when trust erodes. People work harder and fall behind. They follow the rules and feel punished for it. When trust breaks, everything becomes more expensive: credit, cooperation, enforcement, even stability itself. This is when quiet collapse becomes visible. Spain diluted its money and abandoned production. Britain financed survival through debt and lost its empire. The Soviet system looked powerful until reality caught up. The pattern doesn't care about ideology. It only cares about incentives, productivity, and promises. This isn't about predicting exact dates. History doesn't repeat on a schedule. It repeats at pressure points: high debt, financialized economies, fragile supply chains, systems that optimize appearance instead of resilience. The real question is simple: how long can promises grow faster than reality? Quiet power isn't always a villain. It's often proximity to the rules. Those who shape credit, regulation, incentives, and access don't need to control people directly. The system nudges behavior for them, especially during instability. If you want to recognize the pattern early, watch 5 signals. Promises expanding faster than productivity, money becoming easier than building, bubbles replacing growth, incentives punishing long-term thinking, and trust declining across society. When these align, history accelerates. This is the quiet pattern behind money, power, and collapse. If you want more long-form explanations about hidden systems and quiet power, subscribe to Systems They Never Explain, because the most important systems are rarely explained until it's too late.